What if you were to listen to an internationally acclaimed, multi-award-winning illusionist, and he had something far more to say than, "Watch this trick"? Rick Thomas is that performer, ready to go far beyond his magic and far beyond your imagination as he shares secrets regarding our dreams. Dreams that can become reality. The future belongs to those who believe in the strength of their dreams. Dreams pass into the reality of action. From the action stems the dream again. And this interdependence produces the highest form of living. Join Rick and his co-host, award-winning broadcaster Tammy Trujillo, for Nothing Happens Until You Dream. Indulge your mind and take a journey never to be forgotten. A journey connecting all of our dreams as we chase them together.
You know, Rick, I have always wondered, when I was a kid, I thought I would do this and I would do this and I would do this. You know, you go through all these phases as a child of all these things that sound like the thing you're going to do. It's so funny with you because you knew from square one what you were going to do and you did it.
That is the only thing I was going to do. Literally, there was nothing else in my mind. Now, I will tell you what I do appreciate is my parents forcing me to go through college and make sure I got through my education. They really, of course, one is they didn't believe in the magic and as much as I did. And they just felt that no matter what, you need to cover your bases. And I say that constant to people. Yes, you need to follow your dreams. You need to go for everything that you want in your life, but you have to still have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. You need to make sure that there are other things that you're doing to take care of your responsibilities while you are attempting to follow your dreams. I do know people who have tried to follow their dreams and it's destroyed much of their life because the things that are close to them, whether it be family, other relations, things that they may have or own that just disappear because financially they can't keep it going because they tried to follow a dream and everything wasn't in place. You've got to put all the pieces together and follow your dreams and at the same time constantly be responsible and take care of your own. That actually isn't part of what this chapter is about.
But that's okay.
So I'm gonna stop there. It is about dreams, and that's the entire story behind everything I'm sharing with you. I have what's called the Peter Pan syndrome. It's very strange now at shows when the children come out after the show and literally the parents will say, Johnny or Janet or whatever their little child's name is, they want to tell you, they want to ask you something. And the thing they always say is, how did you make the girl float in the air? And then I say, pixie dust. And these children look at me. They cross their eyes and they scrunch up their noses because they don't know who Peter Pan is.
That is so sad.
They have no idea. Oh, I know. And I tell the parents, I look up at it and say, now go home and force your children to watch Peter Pan.
I know.
I tell them, I say, it's pixie dust. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But either way, whether it's going to be pixie dust or the force, as I explained previously.
I love that one.
And a father coming up and saying his son said, the force was with me. Or whatever you appreciate, whether it be Disney or Pixar or anything that's fantasy, it's something that you've got to believe in and something that you got to keep going in your entire life. And that's why when I do magic for children, compared to the adults, they're two different experiences. And that's literally what I want to talk about today.
Right.
And that's the experiences that adults have watching magic and the experience that children have and what the adults lose as they age.
So here's the thing that's always amazed me, bothered me, whatever. As children, everything is possible. We believe the impossible is possible. And at some horrible juncture in life, we turn a corner and, oh, that's not possible. And we just shut the door. Right. We shut the door on the fantasy and the illusion and the fun. I hate it.
The dreams have got to continue.
Yeah.
We all enjoy our lives today because of the dreams that people had before us. They had dreams that they pursued, the dreams that didn't give up on. So I'm going to go right to the beginning of dreams itself. This, I don't think you'll find in the chapter, but I need you to understand my thought process on how strong dreams are. The ones at night when you sleep, sometimes are so real that you have a hard time telling the difference between the reality and the fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you don't remember the dreams at all. But when you do remember the dreams and you wake up for even just a short moment, you try and catch your breath and go, was that a dream or was it real? And here is the reason why during that 1 or 2 seconds after you wake up and get your mind back in gear, that you think what you dreamt was real. And the concept behind it is that your conscious and subconscious mind are two different realms.
Okay.
So when you're dreaming subconsciously, your subconscious mind truly believes without a doubt that what you're dreaming is real. Here's a simple example. Let's say that you are looking out in a big field and you see a tree, right? Simple.
Okay.
Your mind, while you are awake, says, I see a tree. And it knows you see a tree. Now, your subconscious mind also now believes that you see a tree. Now, if you just thought you saw a tree, in your mind, you picture a tree, your mind, your awake mind, knows you're thinking you see a tree, but your subconscious mind believes without a doubt that you're seeing a tree.
Oh, wow.
And it can't tell the difference between reality and fantasy.
Oh,
So when your dreams, when you're dreaming at night and you're dreaming whatever it may be, and you wake up and go, oh my goodness, was that real? And then you get your wits about you and you realize it was just a dream. It's because your dream was telling you it was real. We have constantly, as a people who try to inspire others, tell people that if you constantly tell yourself how good you are, or how better you are than you think you are, and what you can do and what you accomplish, your subconscious mind starts to believe what you're thinking. And again, I repeat, it cannot tell the difference between reality and fantasy. So when you think that you're this amazing, awesome person, what is your subconscious mind believing you are? An amazing person. And what happens as time goes on, that's who you become. That's why dreams are so strong. That's why they're so important. And I understand that there are dreams of fantasy and then dreams that are reality. But how many people were told that they couldn't do something and they said, oh yeah, I'll show you.
Yes.
That's because their dreams that were impossible, they made possible. Those are the Disneys of the world.
Wow. That explains so much. It really does. Because I have dreams in which I'm talking with somebody who's no longer here. Friend, important person. And I wake up feeling like, oh my gosh, they were sitting right there. I'm so convinced that I just talked to them until all of a sudden it's like, well, you couldn't because they're no longer on the earth. But for that split second, you just feel like you just spent an hour with them. It's a beautiful split second.
I know.
I wish it would last.
That's why for those who listen to a podcast before realize why I jumped off the roof of my parents' home. Because I thought I could fly. My dreams were real.
Yeah, you really did believe it.
That space between the reality and fantasy started to blur for me. And my dreams were so vivid that they were real. I started to believe it. And that's important when you're trying to be positive or someone who's trying to be negative in your life, because it's going to create who you are.
But Rick, when you landed, realizing you did not fly, but you crash landed, what did that I know, right? What did that do? Because you jumped off that roof knowing 110% you were going to fly. When you hit the ground, you knew 110% you had not flown. What did you think? Do you remember?
Yep.
What'd you think?
That was stupid.
Okay. And after you thought that,
after I thought that was stupid. So I think that you have to find yourself.
Yeah.
I think it was good for me. I dreamt even as a little boy what I was going to do when I was going to perform in huge arenas when I was going to be doing my magic. I looked up to people like one of my favorite rock stars was Freddie Mercury from Queen.
Oh, yes.
I looked up to these people and says, wow, I'm going to be one of these people someday. I'm going to be up there. I'm going to be performing. Now, my audiences aren't like quite as large as theirs were and continue to be, but they're big audiences as far as a magician is concerned.
They're
you don't want to do a
fantastic.
show so big that I look so small on stage you can't see what I'm doing.
No, I don't think doing Wembley would really work for you. But
all they would be watching a video of a guy. That's where it is slightly different. Okay, I'll tell you. So I was performing out in Pennsylvania at a fair, and all of a sudden the directors of the fair came up to me and said, Rick, this evening we need you to perform in the Grand Arena. I'm like, what? I said, that's 15,000 people. And I said, why? And they said, well, the band Chicago is playing tonight and their opening act can't make it.
oh my God.
There were problems logistically. And they literally said, what's your best act on the fairgrounds right now that could possibly fill in that opening? And I said, are you sure? And sure enough, next thing I know, I'm standing in front of 15,000 people waiting to see the band Chicago. Now, I'm thrilled that I'm performing now in front of more people than I ever have in my entire existence.
Sure.
2, they aren't there to see me, let alone a magic show.
Yikes.
And so the only thing I could do when I got out there is I stood there and I just stared at the audience and there was silence. The audience just went silent because I didn't know what to do other than just stare at them and demand that they look at me. And all I said is, ladies and gentlemen. And I screamed at the top of my lungs, how you doing tonight? And they all just yelled back at me. And I said, I just always wanted to do that. And I said, because I'm not Chicago and I know that you're here to see them. And then I told them the story. I said, they came to me this afternoon and asked if I would come up here because the other act couldn't make it this evening. So bear with me. You're going to have to sit here and watch some magic. And that audience went ballistic. They were so, actually in a good way. They were with me. It was a thrill. And I went and actually did a few more shows with Chicago after that. I thought it was pretty amazing.
Well, you did that. You did one of the most important things that I try to teach my students. When something's awkward, just address it. I call it address the elephant in the room. You know, because they were sitting there going, who is this man staring at us?
I knew I was dead in the water.
Oh my God.
Look, you don't come see a rock and roll and an amazing show from a band like Chicago and have this magician doing some magic, that doesn't make any sense to what the evening's all about. So what my point was is magic is large, but not as large as people in arena listening to the music. They see the band on the stage, but the audio, what they hear in their ears just booms through the arena. And in the world of magic, it's very visual. So you literally have to have a camera on you. And if you're performing for that many people all the time doing magic, they're basically just watching you on a video screen.
Right.
Because you're just too small. You got to have the special effects. You've got to have the video production. We have in the theater now, the largest LED wall this side of Vegas.
Oh my
God. Is massive. It's 70 feet by 30, 40 feet, and it plays great behind many of the illusions. So it works, but the theater is a 2,000 seat theater, and we can handle that. The largest audiences I'm very comfortable performing in front of is 4, maybe 5,000 people. Then you're pushing it. So
that sounds about right. But, thinking back to all the things when you were a kid that you thought were possible, it is so hard to keep that kind of childlike wonder and being convinced that anything's possible. You've managed to do it. And yeah, you've got the Peter Pan syndrome going down.
Because I never grew up. Okay, so here's what this chapter is all about. This is what I know with my experiences performing for children and adults, both in a mixed setting and, believe it or not, when I was younger, doing children's birthday parties. Children are more keen to magic than adults. Adults grow up. Life gets in the way. The most important thing is taking care of your family, and that's a good thing. They got to take care of business.
Sure.
But the childhood toys and the many things that were enjoyed as a child are pushed to the side. So here's why children are more keen to magic. Magic, here's your secret. This is a secret I got to tell everybody. You guys get close. Magic is extremely basic. There are only so many different ways and things that you can do and present and perform in the world of magic. One is making something appear. Another is making something vanish, making it appear somewhere else, cutting somebody in half, metamorphosis. But once you have these categories and you understand them, the basics, the technology behind magic, it's a very ancient art form. So I'm trying to say basic because that's the secret. Children and their minds, they're not that complicated yet.
Oh.
And a child will watch an illusion or watch a trick. And when they see it performed, the first thing that pops into their head is probably and usually right as to how the magician is presenting it. I told you I'd perform children's birthday parties. And
Right.
even to this day, with all the people I perform for, those are the hardest shows to perform because you have 30 children in front of you screaming at you, telling you exactly what you're doing. And you can't hide anything from these children because they're literally spewing out of their mouths. I saw that. It went behind your back
Oh my
or whatever
gosh.
it may be, right? They're very instant. And that instantaneous thought process usually nails it. Now, as a magician, what we do is we never admit
Mhm.
that you're right
Mhm.
or wrong. So there's always a thought of doubt. So even if you might figure something out in the way something's presented, the last thing I'm going to tell you is, oh, you're right. I'll just say, well, you can believe what you want, but I believe it's magic. And you leave that doubt in a person's mind, the frustration stays. They still don't know how it's done. Now, let's take an adult's mind.
Okay.
Adult will watch a piece of magic, and the first thing that pops into their head is just like it is with a child. Oh, my goodness, he must have, and they stop themselves there.
Huh.
And in their head, they go, well, it couldn't be that. That's too simple. That's too easy. And their minds are so complicated that they throw the simplicity out and they confuse themselves and make it more difficult to understand than it really is. Now, I know you may think this is confusing, but maybe this will help you even further. Before I say what I'm about to say next, what are your thoughts on that, Tammy?
It makes sense. I'm just thinking back to watching your show. Now I want to watch it again. I want to come sit in the audience
Right.
and be 5 years old again. It makes sense because I know we, as adult humans, we complicate everything so much.
That is correct.
It's one of my biggest frustrations because we just prattle on and throw everything into the sink. And it's like, just stop and let's break it down. What are we doing here? What are we talking about? It is one of my big frustrations. So I can see how that would apply to magic. It can't be that simple. If it was that simple, everybody would do it, right? Concept.
No, it's that simple,
Mhm.
and everybody doesn't do it.
Uh-huh.
I know that there are shows out there that have exposed the art of magic.
Yes.
And when someone sees how it is done, I will sit there with that person and they'll say, oh my goodness, that's so easy. And I say, I'm telling you that the amazing process in the creation of magic is to create something so amazing that has the simplest direct way of accomplishing it
Mhm.
and pulling it off, and the public, it just goes straight over their heads
Mhm.
because it's just right in front of them and they can't accept that it's that simple. Here's an example of thinking too technical.
Okay.
A very dear friend and an amazing creator and designer in the world of magic. His name was Don Wayne, and he
Mhm.
just recently passed on. He created amazing special effects for illusions worldwide. And I called up Don and I said, Don, in the middle of my show, I want to take one of my illusions and wave my hands to the side. And as I do so, the illusion glides off the stage into the wings.
Hmm.
And then I said, what kind of mechanical track system do we need to create to make that happen for the audience and have that as a special effect in the show? It wasn't a magic. It was just magical.
Right.
And his literal words to me, I want you to listen to this one carefully as well. He said, you really want to know how to do it? I said, yes. He said, a rope.
That's what I thought.
Okay. So that's what I'm talking about.
That's what I
That
thought.
is what I'm talking. How you can spend hundreds and thousands of dollars trying to create something mechanical that is going to fail,
Mhm.
that is going to fall apart, that is going to go to pieces, or you can tie a rope around one of the wheels and have somebody on the side of the stage pulling it off the stage as you magically wave your hands. How would you rather do it?
Oh, gee, I don't know.
So here is one of the greatest minds in the world of magic.
Uh-huh.
And I am saying, as a grand illusionist, what do we need to do? How are we going to create this? What do we need to build? And he literally, all it was a rope. That was it. That was the end of the conversation. And another perfect example of how no matter who you are or what you think you know, somebody else is going to still tell you something that brings you back to the ground, that puts you in the right direction and slaps you around and says, Rick, you're thinking too hard on this one. Let's go back to the basics.
Well, sometimes when we come up with the super simple solution, we're so sure it's not going to work because it's just too darn simple. It has to be complicated, doesn't it?
No.
Right. I know.
I'm not going to tell anybody on these podcasts how things are done.
I know you're not.
But if I tell you we're going to make an elephant disappear, are you going to say in your mind, wow, he made it disappear? Or are you going to say, well, there's only so many directions that elephant can go?
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say. Now figure it out. Now, I am going to tell you, I literally made the elephant disappear. You need to now figure out if you're going to believe in the fantasy and just enjoy the ride, or figure it out and not make it so complicated and go, well, maybe I can figure this one out. So it's enjoyable. I think that one thing I enjoy more than anything from my show is when people walk out and within the first 5 minutes of the show, they stop trying to figure out my show. Yeah. They say, wow, I thought I was going to come here to try to figure out magic. And I just sat back and you made it just like I was a little child again.
Stop thinking.
And I said, that's right. Stop trying to figure out the magic and enjoy the ride. And that's what I do. So here's another thought. This movie's been out for a very long time, so I'm not destroying anybody's, by telling anybody what happens at the end of the show, but you need to watch it. One of my favorite holiday shows is The Polar Express.
I've not seen that one.
It's okay.
But I know what happens. I know what happens. So go ahead.
So these children have a bell.
Okay.
And they shake the bell in their hand and they can ring the bell. And there's a little boy who, when he picks up the bell, he shakes the bell and he doesn't hear the bell ringing. And the Polar Express is taking all these children to the pole to see Santa Claus.
Okay.
And when they get there, that little boy goes along with them because he was have a hard time believing in the wonders of the holidays. And he gets there and he finally, after seeing everything that he sees, the elves, the presidents, Santa Claus, he picks up the bell and he shakes the bell and he hears the bell ringing because he believed again, because it was literally expressing to all of us that you have to believe in the magic. You need to believe in this for it to be such a special occasion and a wonderful time that all of us enjoy. So this little boy goes back home and he opens up a gift. He had lost the bell on the way back, opens up a gift Christmas morning, and there's the bell. The bell had been given back to the little boy, and he shakes it, and you can hear it ringing. And then he hands it to his mom and dad, and they go, what's that? And he says, it's a bell. I'm sorry, I'm starting to cry.
Oh, no.
Because you have no idea how much I believe in this world of magic that I live. But they pick up the bell and they shake the bell and it's silent.
Oh, no. Yikes.
And it's a perfect example, again, of parents growing up and people walking away from the joys of life. So children are more keen to the magic because they haven't been told no yet. They haven't been told, no, your dreams aren't going to come true. Children have no boundaries. They have nothing that's going to stop them from getting what they want until parents and adults step in and start crushing those dreams.
Well, it's true. I mean, you give a kid a box, and that box can be everything, anything, amazing.
It's never the gift.
No,
it's the box
it's the
that
box.
they own.
You must have a cat.
Yes.
but to the parent, that's just a box. It's a piece of trash. Gosh, I wish we could find that juncture where we make that turn and stop it. As I haven't grown up either, Rick. I think you know that. I refuse to grow up. I do all kinds of very silly things. Yeah, I collect dolls because I didn't have them as a kid, so now I have them as an adult. I have adult childish things. But so many people have no idea that they were ever 5 years old. They don't.
Now, I'm going to share the behind the scenes just a little bit because I agree with you on that. You got to just sit back and enjoy it just a bit. And coming to my show, that's exactly what's going to happen. However, let me tell you in all honesty that I have been presenting and performing for most of my existence. And it is exhausting. There is a lot that I put into the production. I've given it everything I've got. I've given it my heart, my soul. my life. And sometimes there are things in my life that have been damaged because I got too involved with that's what it was all about. But I will tell you that before the show starts, often I will sit in the back and just in silence try and catch my breath. And I've talked about having a fear or anxiety of going out there, but there's also a responsibility. And it is an overwhelming feeling when these words are said over and over. But when we say the show must go on, people will just say, well, the show must go on. Maybe sometimes they totally don't understand that what that means to me is no matter how I feel, no matter what problems I may be having in my life, no matter what that scenario is, I need to walk out in front of those people as if nothing is wrong. Everything is right. Everything is perfect. And we're going to have a night of it. And after the years of performing, there will be times when I sit there before a show and I just literally cannot catch my breath because I know I've got to go out there and I have a responsibility to all of those people and I cannot let them down. And it can be a burden. It can play with your mind and it can get overwhelming. And I'm preaching to the choir. I can guarantee there are people listening right now. I don't care if you're in the entertainment industry. It happens to us in so many ways. And the responsibilities we have can be overwhelming. So sometimes when I'm pulling off that show for you, a few minutes before, I wonder if I'll ever even get on stage.
Oh, I get it.
And
I get it. You know, I've done newscasts, Rick, where something terrible has happened in my life earlier in the day, and I'm literally in tears during commercials. And then snapping it back. It's like, okay, man, I got 30 seconds, pull it together, and go back to talking about all serious stuff.
I'm so sorry.
But no, it's true. It is so,
I know.
It is so very true. And you know what? That could also be anybody who's had something terrible, and they're just hanging on by their fingertips today to get through doing the thing they've got to do. Yes. And then they'll go back to the problem, which unfortunately will probably still be sitting right outside the door. And I don't mean physically, but I mean, the problem's there, but you just got to get through it. And then you go pick up the problem and deal with the problem again on the other side of the door. It's hard.
But that's what makes everyone great.
Yes.
Yes. So here we are on the front side. And then you've accomplished it. You are strong. You go out there, you do what you need to do.
Right.
You do what you must do to get it done. And then you just stop and look back and go, wow, I pulled that off. And how different you feel that you've been able to accomplish that and continue on and realize what you've really done. It is so worth the journey. It is so worth it. Opening of the show, the words ring through the show. It is our light, not our darkness, that we're most frightened of. I repeat it again. It's our light, not our darkness, that we are frightened of. And it's just because there's so much in us and we're so frightened to go forward with it. And you're so strong, but at the same time, there's just things that are going to hold you back. Even myself, my feelings are, man, I really got to make sure that I give these people everything that I've got because they've spent their time, their effort, their money. They're not going to get back the 2 hours that they're going to spend with me. That responsibility is huge.
It is.
So it weighs on me. And I'm only saying this because I know it weighs on you as well. So I just hope that when I'm talking through these podcasts, that people are listening going, wow, yeah, I feel that way too. And I don't want this to be all about Rick Thomas. I don't want this to be, oh, this is what Rick feels when he does this or that. I'm saying that we all have the same dreams and we all have the same nightmares and we all have to figure out how to get through them. And what you say and do to other people affects them deeply. And I know that when I walk out on that stage for those 2 hours, I hope and pray that I get through it.
And you always do. You always do. Again, just dreams. You know, you hear stories about somebody who's 80 or 90 and they pursued that dream that they left off back in their 20s because life got in the way. And now all of a sudden they're going for it. You can always go for it.
Yes, always.
Always go for it.
But that's what's great about it. I don't know if there's any other species on the face of the earth that lives as humans do, but we tend to dream. And then once we accomplish that dream, we aren't satisfied.
There's another
That's why when people say all the money in the world, I know that when people have money and it's one part of your life that may make life easier because you don't have the bills that are mounting. But life is a problem no matter who you are and how much money you have or where you live. We all have the same dreams. We all have the same nightmares, and we all have the same problems. I know that money is a big deal, but all I have to do is look at all the people who are wealthy and have miserable lives.
Yep.
That makes me so happy.
That's so mean.
No, I say it in a good way.
I know.
But I wish the well for everyone, but human nature is you have a dream, you accomplish that dream, and we don't stand on our laurels. Maybe that's the way it's best put. You're not satisfied. We're never satisfied.
You shouldn't be satisfied.
We don't have enough of this. We don't have enough of that. But that's what makes you great. If you accomplished your dream, what would you do now?
Right.
How many people have said when they retired that they've worked their whole life and then they retired, and then literally during their retirement, they've got to start now doing something else, whether it be a hobby or what, because we as humans can't literally just shut off the valve.
No.
We retire to do something else, or maybe do something with our lives we've always wanted to do.
There it is.
While we were taking care of our families. But it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see, as you say, those people who have at the retirement age have literally now had that opportunity to do something they've never had that time to do before. But they're not going to just sit there and watch the rest of their life tick by. They're going to go out and they're going to do something, because that's human nature, and bravo to human nature.
Absolutely. And bravo to that dream that they held on to for 60 or 70 or 80 years. Say, now I'm going to go for it.
Now go out and take a cruise.
Just might do it.
Just chill. Go chill and have a good life. I performed on many, many cruises in my 20s and 30s and had the privilege of traveling the world. I always tell people, I said, I already experienced my retirement. Say, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? I go, work. I did my retirement in my 20s and 30s. Oh, so here's another frustration.
Okay.
And I know I keep talking about Disney, but that's anything. That's where I live now here in Branson. This is Las Vegas, whatever it is. There are people who live 15 minutes from Disneyland and have never been to Disneyland in their entire life.
That's nuts.
And there are people who spend their entire life saving to go to something like that for they and their family to experience something grand. So I can also say to you, look around you and see what's right there in front of you and in your face that you haven't taken the opportunity to explore and enjoy in your life. It blows me away that there are so many things that are in our own backyard that we are not taking advantage of. One of those things is, if you're living here in the United States, the amount of places you can go, see, do, and travel is mind-blowing. Get out there and enjoy your life and enjoy the ride. So yeah, that's it. That's okay. If you say things like that, oh my goodness gracious. So my grandmother, before she passed, when we went to her house, they had boxes and boxes and boxes of unopened packages from online services. Basically, she was having boxes delivered to her every day. It was like Christmas every day, and it became an obsession. Am I talking to anybody who knows, has that experience? Anybody out there?
I've done stories on these people, though. Have you? Yes, I have.
And I think one was the gentleman who delivered the packages to her every day was her visitor.
Yep.
She got to see him every day. That's number one. Probably that was more than anything was the relationship she had with the gentleman who delivered her packages, because she never opened them. They were just piles of packages and she just needed the camaraderie. But at the same time, it was like receiving these gifts constantly. And now that, of course, we've turned ourselves into online purchasing, this daily activity of getting a box every day. Yeah. Just remind yourself again, it doesn't always have to cost money.
Right. No, her boxes were a means to the end. The end being that she wanted to see somebody every day.
She wanted to see somebody. She was screaming silently for someone. Now, my mother only lived a block away and she was always there, but it literally was just her way of having friends over.
I got to tell you one quick story before we end about being a kid. Okay. This to me epitomizes that concept of everything is possible as a kid. I did meet Mr. Disney when I was a child.
Wow, that's amazing.
I did. And you can't call him Mr. Disney. He always said, call him Walt. I was 6 and I was performing at the park as a little girl. And I decided I was going to go meet him during this performance that he was at. And I walked up to him with all the sincerity and depth of a 6-year-old and said, Mr. Disney, I'd like to meet you. And he's like, oh, what's your name? I told him. And he said, it's nice to meet you. And I said, yes, I've always wanted to meet Mickey Mouse's father, and shoved my hand out for a shake. I truly believed that a human man was Mickey Mouse's father. I believed it with my heart and soul. And he knew it. And he just laughed. He laughed so hard. I'll never forget that in my life, because he understood so well all the fantasy and the magic and all of that. I don't think he ever grew up either.
No, there's no doubt about that one. And how grateful we are for people like that man who followed his dreams. I can tell you, I grew up, of course, in Long Beach, California, and I have people who live there who do go to Disney, who live there close.
Oh, yeah.
And everything in their house is Disney.
Oh, I know that.
So
I know.
there's two sides of the story. And you're like, wow, this man really was an amazing effect. Now, in my home, and I'm going to tell you flat out, don't stop listening to this podcast when I tell you, but I grew up and lived around Apple computers, Steve Jobs and everything that's Apple, whether it be the iPhones or whatever. My first editing of video and everything was literally on SE30. There were Apple IIes. I literally was there right from the beginning of what Apple was. So that was a big deal. So sadly, I think that I should own Apple by now. I don't.
At least a portion of it.
For the amount of times I've sold products on their behalf to other people, they owe me.
You convinced me to buy my first iPad. You did.
Oh, there you go.
You did.
There you go.
You showed me. Yeah, you showed me yours up in Vegas. We went to the NAB convention, the Broadcasters Convention, and you had this thing, this iPad, and I'm like, oh, that is so cool. You got to get one. And I bought one right there that day because of you. So there you go. Testament.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's cool. It's testimonial. So,
but you think about all these people who've done grand things. I just want everybody to realize, if you don't think you're grand or you're not going to invent something, you don't have to be the next Steve Jobs or the next Disney. You don't. It's just everything that you do in some way or form does affect the world around you. So just remember that. Still believe as much as you can in your childhood fantasies. Don't let anybody tell you you can't accomplish something. Do what's right for you. Push forward and just make it happen.
Yeah.
And if you have to use just a rope, use a rope.
Perfect.
Don't get too technical.
Not when a rope will work.
Thanks for joining us this week on Nothing Happens Until You Dream, starring Rick Thomas and featuring Tammy Trujillo, and is based on Rick Thomas's best-selling book, The Tiger Whisker, available on rickthomas.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out on Patreon for exclusive members-only content. Stay up to date with Rick and Tammy at nothinghappensUntilYouDream.com. Remember, you must follow your dreams, not only for yourself, but for the rest of our future. We'll see you on the next episode.